Ladies and gentlemen, this is the 12th and final round.
Right hand, Golovkin steps in and down he goes again. Unbelievable. Mayweather makes him pay. What a rookie mistake. A sensational left hook by De La Hoya.
It's facts. I'm the best. You know what I mean? Sometimes I don't want to believe it myself, but it's the truth. I'm the best.
I'm going to show you how great I am.
From Southern California, this is the Last Round Podcast.
Number 40. 4-0. Dang, we're at 40 already. 40 weeks, Mike.
Most of my girlfriends couldn't even put up with me for 40 weeks, Danny.
Dang, where's the drum? The drum set when you need it. The drum set when you need it. But thanks again for tuning in to the Last Round. I'm Danny Z, along with my co-host, the franchise, Michael Shepard. Told you it was going to stick. We're going to keep it going for as long as we can. 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, when people are like, what's the franchise? Like all these kids who aren't boxing fans right now, and they're fans when they grow up. Like, why do they keep saying franchise? What's the story behind it? And then we're going to tell it. It's going to be like a history lesson.
Just a picture of me.
Just a picture of you. That's the franchise right there.
And even if you beat the franchise champion, you don't even get the WBC champion. All you get is a diamond belt.
You only get the diamond belt.
So even when you beat me, you don't beat me.
Yeah. But if you don't pay the sanctioning fee, you don't get anything.
Miguel Cotto. He knew where it was.
Cotto Canelo, 2015. He knew what was going on.
You ain't getting, was it like 400K or something like that?
Something. It's
like hell no. Put it in the trash.
It's like, forget it. I'm keeping that money. But once again, like I said, this is the last round, episode 40. Let's start with reviews, Mike. From what day was this? Was this Saturday?
Early Saturday, because I actually missed it. I just got a little message on my phone like, Nordine Bali.
So this was from the Bars Arena?
Bars Arena
in Nur Sultan, Kazakhstan. So Triple G's neck of the woods on ESPN Plus, the app. Nordine Bali remains undefeated with the technical decision 6th round over Arthur Villanueva for the WBC bantamweight title. Villanueva's corner stopped the fight before the start of the 7th. And he was sent to the canvas from a 2-punch combo in this previous round, in the 6th round. What'd you think, Mike? What'd you think of Ubali's performance?
I missed it live. I didn't realize it was on so early.
And then, for people who might say, like, real quick, just kind of give him a backstory. Like, hey, who's this Ubali guy? I didn't even know there was a world title fight on this day. Like we mentioned in last week's episode, Ubali was on the Broner Pacquiao undercard, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And that's where he got his win and his attention.
It's kind of where he kind of jumped out with people. Really a good performance on that card. And then, he's actually in a really good, strong division. If you think about it, you've got Inoue, Luis Neri, the two powerhouses at the 118. But his performance, I thought it was pretty good. I think kind of being so early, it went under the radar with most people. I tried to catch the fight and then didn't realize it was on so early over here. But he started pretty fast, pretty easy defense of his title. Someone I think they really picked to look good against in his own backyard.
Right.
But something interesting at the time was he was up pretty much. I think it was like 60 to 53. So he was ahead on all of the judges' scorecards. And then Billy Joe Saunders was actually in the crowd.
Oh, and then he called out Triple G.
Yeah, there we go. Going into Kazakhstan, going into his backyard and calling him out.
How random was that?
I was watching IFL TV, watching the interviews on there, and he was there with even Kugan Cassius went out there.
I thought Kugan Cassius was had some drama with some
Prince Patel.
I was
going to bring that up later when we did the previews. That was kind of funny.
We'll touch on it later. The BJ Saunders thing. I didn't see it live, but I read that he calls out Triple G and he's like, I'm willing to fight you in your home country. I'm like, what? Yeah. What the hell? I mean, like, honestly, Triple G could sell out like a stadium there just because he's never fought there. They never get any significant fights. And just because they want to see Triple G and BJ Saunders, like, it's a fairly big name.
It surprised me because if you go and watch the IFL TV interview with Kugan Cassius, it's ringside. But there was quite a lot of people just kind of like roaming around, just walking as the fights were going on. And he got stopped numerous times during the interview for people asking for autographs, asking for pictures.
Yeah, they do that to us too. What are you surprised about?
Well, I was just surprised at him being in Kazakhstan, not being as as popular as us.
In America,
that people would realize who Billy Joe was.
We're the top in America. They stop us everywhere.
I'm not even the most famous person in my house.
Can we get on your shoulders, guys? Nope, not today. Not today. But as we mentioned, Nordine Ubali remains undefeated. Who else is in the bantamweight division at the moment? Who else has titles?
The two I touched on, obviously Inoue, Luis Neri.
Oh, that's right, the monster.
And then obviously you've got the rest of the titles are kind of obviously in the World Boxing Super Series.
I thought he was a super bantamweight. The monster, he's not, huh? He's a bantamweight.
Yeah, because it's World Boxing Super Series bantamweight, isn't it?
Oh, that's right.
He's got the Donaire match coming up.
So does Ubali fight the winner of Donaire and the monster in a way?
As a fan, I think I'd love to see that. Will they try to, tactically and maneuver him around, get a few more fights, a few more paydays? Because, he's only really just started to get some notoriety at that division. Would he want to stick him in there straight away with one of the big guns? Maybe, because the only way those guys in the smaller weight divisions really get paid is really fighting each other. They don't have, the welterweight, the super middleweight, and heavyweight type of money.
The money fight.
Exactly. So
Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather, the money fight. They don't have those types of fights down there. But
those would be some good fights. So a little round robin.
No, you're right. It's a good rotation right there. But I think they're, like you mentioned, I think they're going to keep Ubali away from like the monster and Luis Neri, I think, for a while. And try to get him some other opponents that he could look good against, and some good competition, but keep the belt on him, because like I mentioned, like before he got his win and showed up on the undercard of Pacquiao versus Broner back in January of this year, that was when he first got really introduced to the boxing world, or at least to the American public. Do you think?
Oh yeah, definitely. There's not many French boxers really, kicking around the scene. So I think, when you kind of hear that, you kind of bypass them maybe, because, most of the time it's an American, a Mexican, an English fighter. But, he's come out there, and at the age of 32 as well, he maybe has to take some of the bigger fights, because, those guys at the lower weight divisions that don't have a lifespan as long as, the heavyweights, because they're always trying to cut weight.
Yeah.
So, but, he's in a good division. Neri, and Inoue, Donaire, Tete.
When
one of the Maloney brothers would be a good fight, who just signed with Top Rank.
Right. They just signed with Top Rank. They're from Australia, right?
Yeah, and then obviously Emmanuel Rodriguez.
They're going to take over for the Hornet, but the Hornet's going to put up a battle. He's going to be like, no, I'm the number one guy in Australia. So, better watch out. Those Australian fighters, we'll see how that turns out. But has there been any mention about touching on Inoue and Donaire when that fight's supposed to happen?
I was looking that up the other day. No, not yet.
They haven't really set like a date or even a venue, huh?
No,
there was some talk of putting it out here in LA.
I think that's one of the things they're looking at, is because I don't think the World Boxing Super Series financially has been doing too great. I think they're still trying to discuss whether are they going to do both fights on the same night like they started to, or are they going to have separate venues for each tournament? Because Vegas would be good, but also at the same time, are they going to want to do the Josh Taylor Progrès out over in Scotland?
Yeah,
and then maybe do the Donaire one in Vegas. To me, would make sense, but I think financially they haven't been doing too great, and this, touch wood, hopefully this isn't the last series of the World Boxing Super Series, because it's been doing good things. But I
think if Donaire and Inoue fight over here in Vegas or in LA, I honestly think that they need another significant fight on the card for it to draw a pretty sizable audience. What do you think?
Yeah, because I like Donaire, and it is a good fight.
6-7 years ago,
would you want to pay just for one major fight? I can see what you're thinking about there.
In terms of like money and attracting an audience, especially if they have it in Southern California or Vegas, they're going to need another significant matchup that draws people in.
Because Donaire will sell well. Obviously, Vegas is where he lives. It's his backyard.
Yeah. But
yeah, you'd want at least a decent co-main.
Like honestly, like I know it's the World Boxing Super Series, and when every time they put it on, like they do this whole presentation and everything. So I get it. Like they want to keep it that way. But I know it should be the main event, obviously, but if it's in Vegas or Southern California, I don't know how the World Boxing Super Series works in terms of like, their format and all that stuff. At least the minor details, but I would put Donaire and Inoue as a semi-main, the co-main event, and then have the main event be two bigger stars, or at least one bigger stars. Because you got to draw those guys. You be realistic here. They won't draw. They're not gonna. I mean, they'll draw the hardcore fans, but like maybe StubHub.
But then they're kind of poo-pooing their own tournament if they're saying like, hey,
you're right.
That fight's not even the main event.
No, you're right, but like
stick on a strong co-main,
or at least probably stick a strong co-main.
Like if obviously Southern California, you're going to look for a Mexican fighter, to sell someone who sells.
Bring back the tornado from Tijuana, Antonio Margarito, comeback fight
against Humberto Soto,
or Brandon Rios.
Yeah, there you go.
Just bring it back. All Mexican war. But I don't know. I don't think Inoue and Donaire will land on the West Coast. I think maybe Vegas.
You and the boxing guru, I think would be a good fight.
Oh, that's gonna happen. We'll probably see him on Saturday. Shout out to the boxing guru, Mr. Boxing Guru. He has a good podcast.
I'd pay for that.
Yeah, we'll see on Saturday. We'll do a face-off, and we can take a picture of it and we'll share it. And
I think Donaire would be.
We'll see what the fans.
Donaire would be co-main to that.
Donaire would be co-main to that
fight, yeah.
If it happens in
Southern California,
yeah, I'm down with it. We got to iron out the details.
I don't know whether Guru would pass.
People call my people.
Would Guru pass VADA though?
Ooh, that's a good question.
For alcohol, I mean.
For alcohol, I don't know. We're gonna have to ask him on Saturday. Be like, hey, we're here for the random testing. But moving on, that was only like pretty much the significant fight.
Yeah, that was
the weekend, huh? In terms of boxing. All right. Well, let's move on to our secondary review. UFC. I'm just kidding. Sorry, folks. Wrong show. This isn't MMA, but we should do MMA. Nah, we're boxing fans, but I like MMA, guys. I'm not one of those haters. Let's touch on that. Are you like an MMA hater, like some people?
No.
Like like MMA fans.
I like the stand up. I'm not big when they go to the floor and roll around like George St. Pierre used to.
GSP.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's some.
I'm more into the Jorge Masvidal 5-second fights.
Oh, knockout of the year.
Just run, knee him in the head, and that job done.
And that was the fastest knockout, right? Hey, we're diving in. We're diving in now. Well, we'll stop right there because this is a boxing show. It's a boxing show. But previewing this Friday, the 12th of July, from the Edion Arena in Osaka, Japan, again on ESPN Plus. The rematch. Middleweight title for the WBA middleweight title. Rob Brant versus Murata. Did they fight each other before? Or did they each have like a
Murata was the champ, and then he came. I think it was in Vegas, and Rob Brant went in as the challenger, like the big underdog, and then just kind of took him to school. Really. Please
don't tell me this is a regular middleweight title.
No, I think it's the normal.
I thought Canelo had.
What does Canelo have? Canelo has a regular because he took it off. Or did he take the super middleweight?
No, he has a super. I think Canelo has a super, and this is the regular.
Yeah, okay, then regular. Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Now we're at it.
There's too many.
Now we're at it again. You know what? Like, I would just to like troll these sanctioning bodies. I would have the ring announcer every single time when it's a regular title. Just announce it when you're saying it for the regular WBA middleweight title, and just see what happens. Like, emphasize it. So, like, for casual fans who might be watching, like, regular, what does that mean? And they Google it, and then they start seeing, like, what? Super and regular, what does that mean? How come there's just not one champion? Kind of put some publicity behind it. I'm going to do it. Who's the announcer this Saturday at the Golden Boy fights?
BoxRec just has it as the WBA World Middleweight.
I don't think they don't put regular on site unless it's super. If it's a super one, I think they put super.
Yeah.
But other than that, they don't indicate if it's regular or not. They just put world, which is strange. But like you said, it's all about the Benjamins.
Yep, there you go.
But they should be paid in actually Abraham Lincoln pennies, so we'll see. But like you said, Rob Brant's going to Osaka, Japan. I've always thought that there should be more fights in Japan. Pro wrestling is really big over there. So I would think boxing can be pretty big over there too. But they fought last October, right? In 2018.
Mm-hmm.
That was in Vegas.
Yeah, Vegas.
And they were the main event. It was a top rank card, right?
Yeah, it was at the Park Theater.
And at that time, Rob Brant was the underdog last fall. And he pulled out the surprise win. From what I remember from talking to a lot of people after that fight, they were surprised because they thought Murata was, I think, the odds-on favorite.
If you remember at the time, everybody was kind of overlooking Brant, and they were talking about the super fight of Murata and Triple G.
Yeah, that's what they were building for.
Yeah.
That's what they were building for, because I think at that time...
At the Dome or something in Japan, they were talking...
It's the Tokyo Dome.
Yeah.
The Tokyo Dome, which I think holds, I don't even know, 50, 60,000? It's a big dome.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they were hoping for. So they were hoping that Murata was going to win, and then they could get... You think that would have happened, though, realistically? That if Murata won, the Triple G, he would have fought Triple G in Japan?
I think so, because it was that... at the time, Murata had a bit of momentum behind him. It would have been a good fight. I think, obviously people were trying to get out there to Japan, like you just kind of touched on, to open up that market. So taking someone like Murata out there against Triple G, I think would have opened up, the wider market. Triple G, I imagine, would have got the victory, garnered a whole new fan base out there.
Yeah.
So I think, even Top Ranker's still looking at trying to move out there. Now I'm sure I heard Bob Arum say something recently about, signing a few fighters from there and trying to get, corner that market because, well, boxing's huge at the minute. UK, the US, all those TV deals.
Well, that's why I mentioned, like, Japan, they have a very sizable audience over there. Like I said, their pro wrestling's big over there. They have a company called New Japan Pro Wrestling. They're big, and they're always having shows in the Tokyo Dome, which I've noticed. I don't know. I think that's an untapped market. I know there's fights over there. I know Inoue, the monster, and over there he fights. But even when he fights, though, like, if you look at the audience when he's fighting, like, it seems like there's a pretty good turnout. And then when he knocks these people out, like, they're like really into him. They're backing their fighter. I just think that I wouldn't mind. I mean, I know in terms of the time difference, it would suck for us, but I wouldn't mind seeing fights over there, especially if they're in like big stadiums like the Tokyo Dome and stuff like that. It would just be cool to see, because especially seeing other cultures of other fans and other cultures, how they react to things.
Aren't they quiet in Japan?
Yeah, they're traditionally quiet. Like they sit down, they clap, like they're very kind of, what's the word I'm looking for?
Respectful, I guess.
Yeah. So it's a lot different than, like,
the UK, British fans where they just get drunk and turn it into a party. It's a lot I know which one I prefer.
Japan. The last round goes to Japan. So
just imagine the shock they'd get if they became really big and then they had a British fighter go over there, and then all the Brits went and just took over the Tokyo Dome.
Well, the Brits always come over here to, especially New York or even Vegas.
Yeah, they were there when I was at the Fury fight.
Yeah, so they come for the fighters. I mean, you don't see too many American fighters going to the UK. No, not American fighters, too many American fans going to the UK for their fighters.
No, I think that's just how the Brits are, though. From following, like, being passionate about their football teams, it kind of just transfers over. A lot of people will support their team and then, support their local fighters. It's the same type of fans. So, traveling away for a fight, they just kind of make a weekend of it, a vacation of it.
What are we waiting for?
I know, that's it. We should. I wouldn't mind going back. I want to go to, like, York Hall, some of those old school
We should just
places.
go over there. Do some live shows, for our UK listeners.
You paying?
So we'll talk about that later. But yeah, we should plan that though. That'd be fun. I've always. You've been to when you were out there. You went to a fight, didn't you, or no?
Yeah, I used to go to fights. Yeah, Carl Froch was big at the time. Went to his fights.
Yeah, George Groves, Carl Froch. Did you go to that?
No, I was at Carl. Who's I going to see?
You serious? Wasn't that like the fight of the?
I think it might have been Yusuf Mack. When he fought Yusuf Mack.
Really?
I think so. And Callum Smith was on the undercard. I was looking at the card recently, and there was a few fighters who were kind of big now, but at the time were coming through. I think Callum Smith, one of his first ever fights, was there. I can't remember a few of the others.
No, I guess. But honestly, like, I would love to go over there for some fights. That'd be awesome. Your call. Hey, is it true kind of sidestepping boxing for a second. Is it true that somebody told me that the song by the Killers is very popular over there?
Yeah, which
Mr. Brightside. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, it was.
Is it really?
Yeah, I mean, the Killers. It was big at the time when it came out, and then
I just think it's funny because you guys they just had that festival over there or something, a music festival that's like the Coachella of that side. And I saw some interview and I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. Learn something new every day. But like you said, I'm looking forward to this, and I kind of appreciate that Rob Brant is going to Japan for this fight, especially at the Tokyo Dome, because the Tokyo Dome's a really cool arena. Do you think he takes it again?
I think so. If you can only go by what happened in the first fight, and he went in there as an underdog, and he didn't just win, by small margins. He won by several rounds. He went in there really and took it to Murata. I think Rob Brant is just. I think it's just one of those matchups where the styles don't blend well for Murata. I honestly think it'll be the similar sort of thing. I think Rob Brant will go in there, and I think he'll win a unanimous decision.
In Japan?
I believe so. I just think that...
In Japan, Mike?
I think being the champion now will just give him that confidence, and the first fight really wasn't that close.
You're right.
So if anything, I think, he's going to be away from home, but I think he's just going to have the confidence from the first fight going into it.
I honestly think that Murata. But you're right though. The first fight wasn't even that close.
And you've got to think about. I've spoke to Danny Roman, who went out there and
122-pound WBA champion,
who went out there and won, his world title out in Japan. And like you touched on before, is if you're going into someone's backyard, say like in Britain, it's going to be a cauldron. You're going to go out there. People are going to probably throw stuff at you. They're going to spit on you. They're going to shout abuse at you. When you're going out to Japan, he said he was treated really, really well.
Yeah.
He was. Everything about it was a complete role reversal. And like you said, you're going to go out. The fans are going to be quiet.
Yeah, they're very respectful, like you said.
Yeah. So where normally in most sports you go to someone else's backyard and you you're just essentially treated like shit because they don't want you to win.
You're on enemy territory.
Exactly. Yeah, you're an enemy to them.
Yeah.
Where they're so respectful out there. They roll the red carpet out for you. Like welcome. Here's everything you need. Blah blah blah. So it's kind of completely different in somewhere like that, which is I suppose nice to see, but. Respected instead of, any. So.
And forget the UK. Maybe we should just do a show in Japan. What do we got to take a global world tour here.
If it's on your dime, Danny, I'll go.
You know what? I have a couple dimes, but it's going to take a while to get there. We'll see, though. We'll see. The world tour of the last round. But also on that card, Ken Shiro, 15-0, versus Jonathan Taconing, and this is for the WBC light flyweight title. And Shiro, for a lot of people who don't know, has only been a pro for a little over 5 years now. And just kind of like how kind of Lomachenko did, even though Lomachenko did it faster. Shiro won his first major world title in only his 10th fight. That's impressive.
That is impressive.
That's impressive. Lomachenko won it, in his third, fourth?
Yeah, because he fought for a minor world title in his first, and then his second he lost to Salido.
Yeah,
and then
the only loss on his record. Salido has the only loss on his record.
So and he won it in his 10th fight and made some successful defenses against Pedro Gueva, Gilberto Pedroza, Lopez in a rematch, Milan Maldino, and his last fight was Saul Juarez. So he's fought some respectable names in and around that division. So. Good fight. Jonathan Taconing is his mandatory, so just a fight he has to go in there and get done really before he can. I'd like to see him kind of unify really that division since he's this be his 6th defense, so he really might as well just try and pick up some other titles in and around that weight.
Imagine if, or is this too much? Imagine if Inoue and Donaire was on this card.
That'd be good over in Japan.
I mean, yeah, the Tokyo Dome.
Yeah, But I think that fight's too big for someone like that. I think that's why you need it in somewhere like Vegas. Or there was even talk of doing it in somewhere, because obviously all the money from the World Boxing Super Series is coming from like Saudi Arabia, Dubai, those sorts of countries, which is why they had, was it the Callum Smith George Grove fight out that way in Saudi Arabia last year? So
yeah, in that year. I mean, they got a ton of money over there, which is a great transition, Mike, to our next preview of this week from the King Abdullah Sports City Arena in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, on Channel 5. Is that what it's called? Channel 5 in the UK?
Channel 5 in the UK.
Is that what it's called? Channel 5?
Yeah, it's like a free channel that you get.
So it doesn't have like an actual name. It's just like Channel 5.
Like, the BBC in England is like Channel 1.
Oh, well, yeah, that's what I mean. Like, but it doesn't have like a network behind it. It's just
no, it's actually just called Channel 5. Yeah,
it's just called Channel 5.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. Amir Khan, your favorite and mine. The King is back, ironically, in King Abdullah Sports City Arena. The King fighting there. Amir King Khan, coming off his excellent loss against Terrence Crawford a couple months ago in New York, is going up against Billy Dibb for the WBC International Welterweight title. But he was originally supposed to fight.
How do you pronounce it?
That's why I didn't want to go there yet, because I didn't know how to pronounce it.
Is it Goyev?
Something like that. I don't want to get it wrong. I'd rather you get it wrong so you get the heat. But while you're looking that up, Goyev, which I believe is maybe how you pronounce it, was the original opponent, but for one reason or another, he got out of there, and Billy Dibb jumps in.
He was in a car crash.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, he was in a car crash. That was why he was taken from the fight the first time around.
Well, damn, I don't remember that. Well, that sucks. Is he all right?
I believe so. Yeah, he was in a car crash. Sorry, it's Nurja Goyat. But
like I said, he was scheduled as the original opponent, and this fight was for the newly created, newly developed, newly imagined WBC Pearl title. That's right, Pearl. We have Diamond, we have International, we have Silver, we have North American, we have South American, we have Hawaiian, we have Desert Storm, world titles, like all this stuff. And there was going to be a Pearl title, a WBC Pearl title.
Because it was Pakistan versus India. That was why they,
I guess,
decided to do the one-off,
I guess,
Pearl Welterweight Championship.
But, since that original fight was scrapped because, like you said, like you mentioned, the car accident, now this is for the WBC International Welterweight title. So, I mean, yeah, Billy Dibb has a pretty solid record just looking at the numbers. 45-5, and Khan is 33-5. But Khan does have the more experience, but is he, based on his last fight, is it over for him? I mean, he's getting paid a ton of money for this. We know that.
$7 million.
It's a ton of money.
Supposedly.
So, I mean, Saudi Arabia they have oil over there. They have a ton of money over there.
So it's an exhibition fight, essentially. I don't really agree with sticking on the WBC International Welterweight title, because I think it's just a fight they've put on to try to promote boxing in that area.
Come on, Mike.
Applause to Amir Khan for getting weighed in. Calls up his friend Billy Dibb, like, hey, you want a free payday? Do a couple of rounds and then I'll take you out. Billy Dibb fought Tevin Farmer for the vacant IBF World Super Featherweight title August 2018, and then he actually fought this year, April 26th, and fought Surachech Tongmala, who was 7-11. He KO'd him in the first round, so he's had a run out this year, but then he's moving up to
two weight classes.
Yeah, 2 weight classes.
Daring to be great, right?
Man, you got to thank him though. I'd be calling Amir Khan and thanking him for a payday. I'm sure he's getting probably weighed in pretty well as well.
So,
but essentially, I don't know. It's just a little run out for Khan, and then he fights Pacquiao or Kell Brook.
I don't know. I think he'd fight. I don't think Pacquiao's going to fight him. I think he'll fight Kell Brook. They're
either way, he'll probably get paid well again.
Yeah, he will.
Yeah.
But, But touching on Billy Dib, he is now in an exclusive company. Like I said, he's daring to be great, moving up 2 weight classes from 135 to 147 for this fight. And yes, he is now in that exclusive club with Mikey Garcia and Canelo Alvarez. That's right. Let's give him a round of applause.
There you go.
Billy Dib, you made it. You did it. You're getting a payday. It's over. After this, he can retire, ride off into the sunset. He's like, I did it.
I'd be interested to see what he's getting paid.
Honestly, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's pretty good.
I bet.
You know, Saudi Arabia is doing really well in terms of like, well, they've always done really well because they have a ton of money. But not just for boxing, but they also signed like a big contract with the WWE. Because I don't know if you saw when they had signed a contract with them. This was right around when that journalist got killed from Saudi Arabia. They signed a contract with the WWE for like multiple years to have shows over there. They're paying them a ton of money. And now now boxing's coming over. So honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they like offer like a promoter or some of these, boxing entities like, hey, how about you bring fights over here? And,
MTK Global did a show out there not too long ago.
Oh, really?
As well, yeah, they did a show out there.
I mean, I'm don't be surprised if you see like exclusive contracts like, hey, like, bring us some fights over here. Bring us a big fight.
Yeah.
Like we'll pay you. There's dollar signs behind these eyes. It's gonna happen. I'm telling you, they're picking up everything over there. But we'll see how it goes. But like we said, he's moving up 2 weight classes from 135 to 147. Obviously, he's a replacement opponent. Khan should have no problem with this fight. I would say maybe 4-5 rounds tops. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. He looks in good condition. Actually, he's signed with fitness coach. Is it Alex? How do you know? Is it Ariza?
Oh yeah, he was Pacquiao's.
Yeah, he signed with him for his strength and conditioning, and he's also changed to Bones Jones out in Vegas.
Oh yeah,
at the Prince Ranch Boxing out in Las Vegas.
So he's not training under Virgil Hunter anymore.
No, which I thought probably wouldn't happen after
the Crawford fight.
Yeah, because Virgil wasn't the very positive, should we say, about the performance, and was kind of touched on. He thought Khan should retire, so I'm sure Khan was probably like, well, okay, if you haven't really got my back, then
but I mean,
I'll go elsewhere.
It was a tough performance. I mean, if you look at it, but
yeah, I mean, he was.
But I get it though. Like you're like, oh, wait, you're supposed to be on my team.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, sometimes the truth does hurt, and maybe Khan should have retired, but when he's getting $7 million to fight Billy Dib,
the king is never going to retire. Everybody talks about King Ryan Garcia. Nope, there's only one king in this sport. That's right. Amir King Khan. So I hope everybody remembers that. And one day, you never know if Billy Dib is moving up from 135 to 147 to fight Amir King Khan, who says Ryan Garcia can move up to 147 and have a battle of the kings.
I'd like to see him fight Canelo.
Who? Khan?
Ryan Garcia.
You never know.
Just watch him get chinned.
Daring to be great. All these guys are moving up 2 weight classes, 3 weight classes. Imagine Ryan Garcia. I can't believe we're talking about this. They're moving up for like 130, 135 to like 160, 168.
He needs to win some battles in the courtroom first.
What a world. What a world we live in. But moving on. Oh, like we touched on earlier. Prince Patel, 19-0-1 against Mitchell Banquez for the vacant IBO bantamweight title.
Do you know who Prince Patel is? He's kind of like a crazy polarizing figure in the UK.
I knew, but I became aware of him, like we mentioned at the beginning, after his little dramatic encounter with IFL TV's Kugan Cassius, which you want to touch on it because you wanted to touch on it later on. So we are here now.
I just kind of wanted to touch on Prince Patel because I did wonder whether, when I knew obviously he was going to be on the fight previews, whether the people in the US kind of knew who he was, because I think he was with Frank Warren. And, used to only get like 2 fights a year. So essentially he kind of left them, took it upon himself, and then kind of moved across Europe and everywhere, really. I think he's had fights in Egypt, Hungary, Latvia, the Czech Republic. But he's fighting in some obscure places, like local gyms that you see on YouTube where it looks like there's only like 7 or 8 people actually ringside watching. He classes his own record, I think, as 22-0-1. But on BoxRec, who don't recognize all of his fights, they have him as 19-0-1. There was a recent video on Twitter doing the rounds of Prince Patel fighting somebody. And dude, I think it was actually, might have been like in the IBO Eliminator. And it literally looks like some guy who'd never put on boxing gloves that he was fighting in an IBO Eliminator. You might have seen it. It's like a white canvas with some people. It's just been doing the rounds this week.
Yeah.
And that was Prince Patel. And then the Kugan Cassius thing, I think it goes back to Kugan and him don't get on, because I think Kugan's kind of like used to punk him and make Prince Patel sound like a bit dumb in some of his interviews from back in the day. Because Prince Patel, essentially, if you look at him in his style and what he does, he's like a poor man's Prince Nazim.
Okay.
You know, tries to be flashy, tries to be kind of cocky, but can't really put it off, hasn't got the skills to pay the bills, sort of thing.
So is he like Adrian Broner, Floyd Mayweather?
Yeah, like a poor man, like a cheap version. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, he's kind of funny, I guess, now. I mean, at the beginning, I used to kind of like really hate on him because he was kind of annoying. But,
Hater.
You know, now you kind of watch him and he's kind of just more humorous. I think
comedy.
As soon as he steps up to any kind of decent level fight, I think he'll get smoked. You know, the fact he's going out to all these kind of strange, obscure countries just to fight. Like last year, he fought 11 times according to BoxRec. So it could have been 12, 13 times just because BoxRec don't acknowledge them all.
Activity. And like you mentioned, you know, he had that little dramatic encounter with Kugan Cassius. So for our listeners who don't follow the YouTube boxing world, this gentleman, Kugan Cassius, is essentially one of the main guys behind IFL TV.
Yeah, he founded it.
He founded it over there in the UK, essentially. So IFL TV is one of the more prominent YouTube channels for boxing content, boxing interviews. They're partnered with like MTK Global and those guys, and he always gets these exclusive Eddie Hearn interviews, and like they're like an hour and a half. They just sit there and they just talk. So, there's a video out there. Like, it's not really like that great of a video, but like it's like them talking smack to each other, and I don't know. I mean,
Kugan just kind of like Prince is kind of sat down like on his phone. Like Kugan comes to the side of him, and some people sat down in between them, and just starts telling him he's going to beat him up, essentially.
Yeah.
For some reason, and then someone's kind of filming it on their cell phone, and you know, Prince Patel's like 100 and what is he, a bantamweight? So 118 pounds, and Kugan's like pretty 6 foot to over 200 pounds.
You never know. You never know if the public demands it, we could be seeing it exclusively on IFL TV.
Well, we had these. What was it? The two dudes from YouTube who fought each other, KSI and.
Oh yeah. I don't know. We got to get on YouTube, by the way. We keep talking about it, but you got to make some moves here, Mike. Come on. But also on that card, nope, not Tyson Fury, Huey Fury, 22-2 against your favorite and mine, the veteran Samuel Peter. So this is a heavyweight fight, right?
Yep.
The last 4 fights that Peter's had, he's lost 2 of them. But I mean, man, Samuel Peter's been around since what? Because he fought Klitschko. I think he fought both Klitschkos, didn't he?
Did he fight both? I know he's definitely fought one.
I know for sure one, but I feel like he's been around so long that it's just like, you know what? I think you fought both of them.
He fought Vladimir in 2010. You're right. And he fought Vitaly in 2008.
See? I told you. He's just been around so long. It's just like, I'm here long enough where I can just...
He's been here that long. He fought James Toney twice and beat James Toney twice.
See?
2006, 2007.
See, that was his claim to fame. See, Samuel Peter's 38-7. Like,
he's fought Vladimir twice.
See? Told you. I'm sure he made some decent money in his career. But obviously, Huey Fury is the favorite going into this fight. Samuel Peter's just, I thought he was retired.
Well, he retired in 2016 after losing to Kubrat Pulev. Came back in the start of this year, February, fought Gerardo Escobar, 2-21. KO'd him in the first round. Then went on to fight Mario Herrera. Lost a split decision over 8 rounds to him.
What?
Then fought Alejandro Garduno, who was 2-12. Won that first round KO. And they were both in April of this year. So now he's fighting Hughie Fury. A good name, I guess, for Hughie Fury's resume. But
how crazy would it be if Hughie Fury calls out Tyson Fury? Like he's just like, I want Tyson.
I'm sure they'd never fight. I'm sure that would split the family, if they decided to do that. But
imagine that though. He's like, oh wow, he called out Tyson.
I mean, Hughie's young. He's 24 fights into his career, be 25th, obviously this weekend. But essentially, the problem he has is he's got a very, Tyson-esque style that he just negates the other person and just nicks rounds. He never really goes in there and blows people away. Like when he fought, Joseph Parker, there was the same thing. He didn't go in there and try to steal the belts. It was just, tried to nick rounds here, nick rounds there. The same when he fought Kubrat Pulev. Went in there, did the same thing. Doesn't go in there and, win rounds convincingly or really get the KOs. He's 22 wins, only 12 by KO. So I think that's the problem he has. He's hopefully going to grow in, maybe get his man strength when he gets a little bit older, because he's only 24, which is relatively young for a heavyweight.
Very young. And he's at 22-2, so
he's got time on his side. He's tall, 6'6", 80-inch reach. So, he's got the physical attributes to be a really, really good heavyweight.
Yeah.
So, but just, maybe take his time, perfect his craft, wait for some of the people at the top maybe to, get over the hill, and then he could be on the next coming of those big guys coming through. Because the next guys coming through, like we're going to touch on soon, you've got Daniel Dubois,
Joe Joyce,
Big Joe, Nathan Gorman is another one.
Aren't they fighting
Hergovich, Dubois and Gorman.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the fights we're going to be talking about in a minute.
Yeah, that's this weekend as well. But yeah, moving on. The Saturday, the 13th, from the Dignity Health Sports Park, formerly the StubHub Center out here in Carson, California, which is essentially in LA.
We'll be there.
The last round will be there. We will both be there. So if you see us, we'll most likely, it's a pretty high chance that we'll be the tallest guys in the building. At least I will. But if you see us, you recognize us, come say hi at the War Grounds in Carson, California, out here in the Los Angeles area. WBC Super Bantamweight World Title on the line. Ray Vargas, the champion, versus Tomoki Kameda. Ray Vargas is 33-0. Like we mentioned before, numerous times, and like other people have mentioned, how the hell does Ray Vargas make 122 pounds?
I still don't know how he still has his title. The last couple of fights that we'd been to, I didn't think he did that good. I mean, we got dropped by Franklin Manzia when we were there. I didn't think
that was at
Fantasy Springs.
Fantasy Springs in Indio, California.
I didn't think he looked that great against Azet Hovhannisyan, where he won a unanimous decision. Thought that was kind of close. He did well against Negrete, but Negrete is actually small for that division, and Vargas is extremely huge for that division.
Long, tall. Yeah. It's just insane. But this seems like it should have pretty good fireworks, because there's also some prehistory to this fight, as both of these fighters have already fought before in the Mexican Golden Gloves final in 2007, so like 12 years ago essentially. So they went at it then. Do we know who won?
Vargas beat Kameda, so Kameda's looking for some retribution 12 years on.
So I think it's a good little precursor, and I'm pretty sure, and like I mentioned, I think I already mentioned, this is on DAZN. DAZN's going to be pushing the fact that, they met in the Golden Gloves final in Mexico 12 years ago, and now they're meeting again in the pros. It's a good little narrative.
If people are wondering why, it's because Kameda was down there and actually turned pro in Mexico.
He knows Spanish, I think, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's been there for a while, since he was a child, I believe. He went over there and lived down there and turned pro down there, and has his alias is El Mexicanito, I believe.
If he wins, I hope in his post-fight he talks nothing but Spanish, because he'll win over that whole crowd there.
I honestly think that he may win. I mean,
it's a good matchup.
It is a good matchup. I think that Ray Vargas has maybe got too big for the weight. I think that, maybe making weight he's starting to struggle just because in his last few fights he's got dropped, he's kind of slow, got drawn into a war. He's one of those people that you just sit there and you think to yourself, why don't you just use your size? It's going to be boring. It's going to be like a Klitschko fight. Just keep them on the jab, keep them on the jab, keep them on the jab. Because he's enormous for the weight, but then he always gets drawn into a scrap. And I think that if he does that with Kameda, I think he may actually eventually come unstuck, and I think his long, 2.5-year reign as WBC champion will come to an end.
Do you think that this might be a little reminiscent of Alberto Machado in terms of the weight?
It could be.
Because like you said, the last few fights for Vargas, you can see that he's kind of had some...
He was lucky against Manzia when we were there.
So, you never know. But I like this fight, and I think Kameda might pull it off. I think so. I don't know. I'm just leaning towards that.
I think he could be. The thing about Kameda is he's fit. In his last 4 fights, he's gone the distance and won them by unanimous decision. He's a very skilled fighter. He's been in there. He lost twice to Jamie McDonnell, but both fights were very, very close. And then that was why the McDonnell, everyone kind of thought, the scorecards were wrong. They had an immediate rematch. McDonnell beat him again, knocked Kameda down in the 12th round. But I think my money this time is going to be on Kameda, and then I think Vargas may have to move up.
We'll see. But like we said, we will be there for the card. So come say hi. And then before we move on from that, that's the main event on DAZN. There's also been news that Rigo has interest in fighting the winner of this fight, because obviously he's at 122 still. And then, in his last fight, he got the stoppage, even though he kind of let his hands go, and people are like, "Oh, he changed his style." So, if Rigo fights the winner, especially if he's fighting how he did this last time, we could have a pretty interesting rotation around here at 122 pounds.
Especially with Rigo's new style, that stand in the pocket.
The style. That's what he should change his name to. The style. Guillermo Rigondeaux. But also on that card, which is probably the fight I'm looking forward to most. I'm looking forward to this fight very heavily. Diego De La Hoya, 21-0, goes up against friend of the show, Ronnie Rios.
Your best friend.
My best friend.
You should have seen the smile Danny had when Ronnie was in the studio.
So, Ronnie and Alexis Rocha are both signed to Golden Boy. Alexis is a welterweight with Golden Boy. Ronnie Rios is, as of this fight, he's a featherweight. And they've been guests here in the studio multiple times. And for you fans listening who don't know the backstory, I'll give you a quick story. Not a quick story, just a quick detail. Mike is a fan of Lex. I'm a fan. Don't make it seem like I'm not a fan. So he's Team Lex. I'm Team Ronnie. So, because we have to choose sides here. There was 4 of us in the studio. We all couldn't gang up on each other, so we had to even the odds. Tag team wrestling. But like I said, I'm excited for this fight. I'm looking forward to this fight more than the main event. And this is for the interim WBA featherweight world title.
I think this will be a war.
I'm looking forward to this fight. Because these, not only should this be a very good competitive fight, but both of these guys, De La Hoya and Rios, have been with Golden Boy for years now. They're essentially kind of like young veterans within the stable. And they're finally facing off against each other. I mean, we know that Diego De La Hoya has had some trouble in his last couple fights. In 2 years, his activity the last year and a half, 2 years hasn't really been that great. Didn't he miss weight once for a Fantasy Springs fight?
Yeah, by 6 pounds.
Yeah, so it was a
He
ton.
came in at like 128 pounds.
So,
and he was the headline of the card.
Yeah. So, they had to scrap for a new fight because of that. But this is going to be, I think this is both of their first fight at featherweight, isn't it?
I believe so, yeah.
So they're both moving up because they both used to fight at 122. Or did Ronnie say he was fighting at 118?
But Diego definitely used to fight at 122. Let's have a look at Ronnie's. He fought at 122 against.
He's been at 122 because I think when he was here last time, we asked him, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm still good at 122."
Yeah, he fought WBC America's Super Bantamweight 122.
But I'm pretty sure they talked to both sides, and they're like, "Hey, you guys want to do this at featherweight?" They're like, "Oh, let's do it." I mean, the good thing is that the good thing is between super bantamweight and featherweight, it's only 4 pounds. I know, and I use the word only loosely because each pound does matter, weight cuts matter. It's difficult, but as you get higher, the weight class separation gets bigger. So 147 to 154, 154 to 160, 160 to 168, and so on and so forth. But these are 122 to 126. It's essentially, to the naked eye, it's a very close weight class. So, but I'm excited for that. I'm very excited for that fight, and I hope De La Hoya just makes the weight.
Yeah, I think Diego. I think one of the problems he's had is obviously making weight. So moving up in the weight class hopefully should give him, a better chance of being able to make weight. Doesn't have to cut so much. Go in there as drained. I think obviously what the thing going against him is really he's not jumped off the big win that he had against Randy Caballero when he beat him on the Canelo undercard in 2017. Ever since then, he missed weight, then fought Jose Salgado, beat him, fought in Mexico, accidental headbutt in the second round, turned that into a no contest. So, over the last 2 years, essentially, he's only really had one fight. I think that just the inactivity, and then I think, fighting someone like Ronnie Rios, who is going to be, come forward, is going to pressure Diego. I think Ronnie will take it. I honestly do.
You know what? And we're not just saying that just because he's a friend of the show. I honestly think Ronnie's going to take it, like legitimately.
It's just I think everything is in Ronnie's favor. I think that the inactivity, the weight class,
he's fought the better competition.
And the pressure going on to Diego being a young guy, the pressure from Golden Boy as if to say, you need to perform. You've missed weight. We had to cancel, he headlined that card at Fantasy Springs that they had to, they didn't cancel it, but they had to change the main event due to him. That's a lot riding on a young kid's shoulders. And he's got that De La Hoya name. So, everything to me, I think is really going to be in Ronnie's favor. And I think a late stoppage, maybe like some body shots, because Diego obviously, struggled to make weight over the last few years. So, just working that body constantly. Or Ronnie on points.
I agree. And then wrapping up that card, Alexis Rocha, also from the show, 13-0, goes up against Berlin Abreu, 14-2. So that should be fun. Of course, we're going for Rocha.
Rocha by stoppage.
Alex by stoppage. And then also Joet Gonzalez. Him and, I'm surprised his brother isn't out here, Joust Gonzalez. 22-0 is going up against Manuel Avila, 23-1-1. So it's a pretty good card. It's a very stacked Golden Boy stable, obviously. And also this Saturday from the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey on ESPN, Shakur Stevenson goes up against Alberto Guevara. And Guevara has stepped in for Franklin Manzanilla, who
we spoke about earlier, that fought Ray Vargas.
We just talked about, fought Ray Vargas and actually gave him a pretty good fight. And we talked about the show, talked about this fight before we went on air. There hasn't really been too many fights announced for this show.
On BoxRec, there's only 2 fights. So, and it's Monday, the card's on Saturday.
So, I mean, who knows how that one's going to turn out. And that's going to be on ESPN. So it's obviously a big platform if it's on ESPN. It's not on the app, it's on ESPN. And the secondary card that's been announced for that, Joshua Greer Jr. against Nikolai Potapov. This is an IBF eliminator match, essentially for the number 2 spot in the IBF 118-pound rankings. So there's some
2 good prospects.
Yeah, 2 good prospects. There's a lot riding on this fight for these fighters. And then also this weekend from the O2 Arena in London, UK, your mother ground, like we mentioned, Joe Joyce, newest heavyweight on the scene, goes up against the veteran Bryant Jennings. Joyce is obviously a big favorite to win. Jennings was knocked out in the 12th round by Oscar Rivas back in January. That ended his 5-fight winning streak. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, Jennings still has some power. They're heavyweights. There's some power behind those punches, but Joe Joyce is expected to win, like I mentioned, in terms of the favorites. And also, I feel like I've seen a ton of commercials for this. Daniel Dubois versus Nathan Gorman for the vacant British heavyweight title. What do you got on that really quickly? And Gorman's trained by Ricky Hatton.
Yeah,
this hitman.
This is kind of like a smaller British version of Daniel Dubois being AJ and Nathan Gorman being Andy Ruiz, in my eyes. Good
analogy.
You've got Dubois, very European style heavyweight. Everything's from the jab, jab, right, jab, right, stuff like that. Nathan Gorman, surprisingly, kind of like Ruiz, he's got that body where you think like, this guy's not going to be a good fighter. Surprisingly good feet, very fast hands, just like Andy Ruiz. I honestly think it's going to be one of those where it's going to be Dubois early stoppage, or Gorman's just going to drag him into the late rounds and just, beat him down. Dubois, the big guy, he's carrying a lot of muscle, which I think, will tire in the later rounds. I'm going to go Gorman. Honestly, I'm going to surprise you. I think I'm going to go Gorman. I think he just picks his punches better, more of a natural fighter, and I love his uppercuts. For a heavyweight, he has beautiful uppercuts.
Are they better than Anthony Joshua's?
Yeah, because I think he's just got a better boxing IQ.
No, Anthony Joshua puts his glove on top of your head. He pushes your head down, then he uppercuts
like
you.
He did to Klitschko.
Man, those were nasty. But he pushes your head down, and he tried to do that to Joseph Parker, and Joseph Parker trained for that. He always got out of it, so he never got hit. So you're going with Gorman.
I think I'm going to go for the surprise. I think because Dubois, I believe, they're trying to breed him to be the next big heavyweight in Frank Warren's stable. They're sticking videos up with him training with Frank Bruno. He's got that Adonis-style body. He's doing a lot more interviews. Adonis. Even though he's terrible at interviews, they've been sticking him more out there.
They're training him, media training.
Exactly. I think they're trying to push him through. But I think just Gorman is going to be, he's more of a natural boxer. These two also have a past. They were on the British, the Great Britain boxing team together. So they've trained, Gorman says, about 200 to 300 rounds. They shared like a hotel room one night, didn't get on. Gorman said that Dubois is just very quiet, didn't want to talk. Gorman's more outgoing, likes to have a joke. So he said he handed the key back to the coach and was like, I can't stay with that guy.
It's too boring for me.
Yeah, so they've got a little bit of a pass, which is good. So there's a bit of spite in the fight as well. And like you said, it's for the UK fans who obviously don't know that they've actually, a lot of commercials out here for it.
Yeah.
Every time you have ESPN on, and it's on there. So
yeah, so it's
they're
like
pushing it
for two guys who aren't really that known, at least over here.
Yeah,
they're pushing it pretty heavily. Yeah. So it's kind of interesting. So we'll see. Obviously, they have some stock in this. They're trying to whoever wins, they're probably going to try to push a little bit harder. So we'll see.
It was supposed to be Joe Joyce and Dubois.
I read that. I was just about to ask you about that.
Yeah, it was supposed to be Joe Joyce and Dubois because obviously just the British standings. Joe Joyce just kind of said I need to be a level ahead because of his age.
Right.
So he forfeited. Gorman stepped up, and then he's obviously facing Jennings, which is, I imagine he's just going to skip out those kind of British and Commonwealth and go straight for the world because of his age. He turned pro very late.
You're right. And then wrapping up the show here. One piece of news and notes that we want to touch on. Tyson Fury. He told his fans in that his October, he's likely going to fight in October again. That's what he's been saying. That's what we've been hearing. And he's been saying that Jarrell Miller is on the list to be his opponent. What's your reaction to that?
He said this. He's doing like a UK tour with Michelle Joy Phelps, just kind of like a talk. It's like a stand-up tour where he goes around and just tells people about his fight with depression and losing all the weight and stuff like that. I think that fighting Jarrell Miller, I think if he does, he's going to get a lot of backlash.
He will, but it should attract eyes.
Exactly.
That's all they care about in the ratings. They're like, yeah, let's just do it.
He was ringside when I was in Vegas. He was sat there just a few seats behind me. He was there, and so was Evander Holyfield. And he was still getting a lot of fans going up to him, asking for autographs, asking for pictures. And I think, he gave a lot of time because I think he knows that
he needs to build his rep back up.
Exactly. So, he knew what to do. He's done a few interviews with Kugan Cassius. trying to get people back on his side. The only problem is he gives different. He says one thing in an interview and then kind of contradicts himself in another interview.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
So I don't, his excuses for, why he tested positive, started saying it was an injection of something for his elbow.
I saw that.
And then
media training, guys.
Yeah,
come on.
so he needs to kind of stick to one story. But essentially, the fight itself, I would like it. Yeah, I'd like to see it.
All right. Well, wrapping up here, we appreciate you listening to episode 40 of The Last Round. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Audio Boom, whatever. However you're listening to us on the computer, cell phone, all that stuff. Like Mike said earlier, like we touched on, we will be at the Golden Boy Promotions fights on DAZN this Saturday in LA at the StubHub Center. So if you see us, come say hi. We're going to try to get some interviews and get some more content for you guys for future episodes. But once again, I'm Danny Z. For my co-host, Michael Shepard, this is The Last Round.
Thanks for supporting and listening to the show. Follow us at The Last Round 12 on social media. Rate, review, and subscribe. This is The Last Round Podcast.